Lance Meister, who is going to show us a behemoth of a game coming up, which is Reavers of Midgard, which is part of the Champions of Midgard series. Hello, Lance. Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm excellent. I really appreciate you taking the time and taking us through a 30-minute romp of Reavers of Midgard, which just barely fits on that prep board that you can see at the bottom of your screen.
There is a lot of stuff. There is a lot of things going on. Recently, well, I'll share that later, but somebody sent out a tweet to us or something about the fact that they really enjoyed the game, but they saw that at the very end of the game, he's like, I got, 27 suits of armor. I got 3 works of art. I've, got a brand new ship with 3 new upgrades and, 100 dead Vikings at my feet type of thing. It definitely is it's a very involved game with a lot of different moving pieces and stuff like that. But it's also a relatively quick and simple game to learn how to play because it does use a worker placement aspect to it, but unless you're playing a 2-player game, but like you're just placing one worker and then other people follow the action. If you play games like that before, I'm sure you have, Beth, where people after you choose.
Before we kind of get into some of the rules and whatnot, the setup for this game is also remarkably simple because, like, on the board, the red cards, which are in the top left corner, the Reaver cards, they have a spot that looks exactly like the cards. Like, it's pretty much like, where does this stuff go? Oh, here. So, yeah, exactly. So, Disembodied Hand of Lincoln is showing us some Reaver cards.
Hey, Lincoln.
Likewise, where to put, some of the like the Raid the Village cards, they're all right. Like it was very obvious, and with the amount of pieces that you're pulling out of the box, where everything goes, which I think speaks to the point you just made, that even though that this is a deep, meaty, satisfying game, it's very entry accessible. And the design, I think, speaks to that.
That was something that in the graphic design of the game, it was stressed that I mean, I'm not here to throw shade on any other game or anything like that, but I'm a big believer in nothing. Nothing detracts from enjoyment from a game more than the setup, like having it last. Like, oh, okay, 45 minutes later we can finally play the game after we've got everything set up, or like not having having if you're gonna have complex rules, that's fine, but have player aids or something for them, or just have a complex game but with a relatively simple rule set, which is one of these. Because I hate seeing one person with their face buried in the rule book, when it isn't their turn. I don't like that. So a lot of effort went into this one to make sure that it was very accessible, and as you said, the dive into the pool is gradual. You may be running into the deep end of the pool, but it definitely does take you there slowly. So
and before you get in on sort of an explanation too, I want to just make sure we toss out a couple terms there to make sure that as you're explaining, people can orient themselves very quickly. So those red cards that are up in the top corner are the Reavers. Just you're going to be referring to Reavers quite a lot. Now your boat. Is there a good name for your boat? That there's some setup on the bottom of the board. There's also kind of a blank one that's over on the top left as well. Are we just calling that our personal board?
I prefer boat? Ship, because or a Viking long ship, if you will. But I mean, no, you're fine. Just whatever. Boat is perfectly fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure people kind of know as they're looking at this board that the Reavers are particularly the ones, since you're going to be mentioning those a lot.
Yep. I mean, which is fun. So, as you said, it's like, I mean, I will take a few moments just to talk about how beautiful the game board is. I mean, the artwork is fantastic for this. The big thing with this game is that, strangely, the boat is kind of your character. In a lot of ways, because yes, you're going to be drafting these different Reavers, which you can, as you mentioned, are those red cards up above. You can see that Lincoln has the game set up, and he has a couple of Reavers next to each of the long ships already set up there, because you do get 2 to start the game. The big thing with the Reavers is that they are a resource that can be used 3 different ways. They can be immediately, like on the top left of every one of the cards, there is some dice there, and dice are going to be used for the results that you get on those dice. They're a resource that you're going to be able to correct. So that card right there, it basically, if you want to, immediately after you get it, you can turn it over. You can put it in your glory, like a glory card stack that you're going to reference at the end of the game for extra points. But there's 2 cards up on the left. If you decide to do that, you just get to take 2 red dice, you roll them, and you can place them in your ship. Each one of the ships has several locations on the board itself that has a many places where you can place dice. If you ever run out of room for dice, you can kick dice off and put them back on there. But those ones, the Reaver card there also on the very bottom, it has a benefit that you have. And if Lincoln can phase out real quick here, I can explain how that works. But the bottom part of that is that you can place it. There are, underneath your ship, there are 4 locations where the cards can be slid underneath. And I'll, as soon as we can slide out here. I mean, this is, so there you can see there's 4 different columns on the bottom of your ship. When you place a card, you can have up to 3 in each one of those spots. When you place a card, only the bottom part of the card itself sticks out, the little bottom. And so when you get an added bonus when you take those actions on the board, so you'll be able to, in this case, you can turn in 2 dice of any color, of any size, and you can get a fort token, which later on, 4 tokens will be worth extra points at the end of the game, type of things like that. So you can have up to 3 of those, and exactly right there. When you take the battle at sea, you will get an extra die, basically that you have for that particular action. So you'll be able to level up your boat, so to speak, with these special powers underneath it. Then also the Reaver itself, if Lincoln takes the card out, you can put it in the spot for the card on the boat itself, and then it becomes a leader right there. And then the leader, it isn't locked in place later on. If you want to swap out and get a different leader, you definitely can. You can just and you just get rid of the old one, put it back in your glory path because you can't ever get it back. But depending upon if a certain leader has a special power that you like more, you can just trade those out as you gain Reavers. So I always like games that have multi-use cards where you get to choose which ones you want to use, and it adds to the just the variability of the game, and also the depth of the game as well, because certain cards will be worth certain be useful in certain situations and not as useful in others, and so you have to kind of bide your time and make sure you pick the right way. The nice thing is that these cards don't really lock into place. You always have the ability of, I made a bad choice. Later on you can find a better card, you can kick it off, and you can use a different one instead. So it isn't something where you're using up the spots, if you will. The gameplay is really simple.
Spots, I was just gonna say, let's talk about gameplay, because I think the structure of a turn in this is really kind of cool. Where even though somebody takes a spot, that doesn't necessarily mean you can't do that thing too.
Exactly. So each person, in a 4-player game, each person's going to have just 1 boat. In a 2-player game, each person's going to have 2 boats. In a 3-player game, it is a little bit different because each player is only going to have 1 boat, and the boat is your action pawn. You're going to place it on the board to take your action. But starting with the first player, the first turn, and then as the game progresses, it gets handed to clockwise around the board. There is a black boat, which basically gives that person who has it 2 actions on that turn. But anyway, regardless of that, whether you have 1 action or 2 actions, on your turn, you're going to take your boat, and you can kind of see right there on the board, there are several different quadrants of that board. I mean, you can look up, there's the Reaver section, there's the Conquest section, there's the going to sea in the middle, to fight sea creatures or what have you. There are several different options that you can take, and each one of those has
Lance, and when you get into an example, let's probably do fight at sea, or I think raid villages right below that, just because Lincoln will be able to zoom in on those.
Oh, perfectly. Let's just go to Raid at Sea. That's right,
dead center.
Straight in the center of the board, dead center in the board. So, and right there, you can see, there's those 4 big drumsticks, those 4 pieces of meat there that are on there. So the
Yummy.
big turkey legs. So if somebody, if somebody takes that action, oh yeah, so you take that action, they're going to be the first person that takes that on their turn. Now, Lincoln, if you can move that little guy so you can actually see what's underneath that. So when you take that action, there's a small little bonus there, and it may be a little difficult to say, but basically it gives you two. The first person to take that action, you're going to get 2 glory points. Glory points are the victory points of the game, and then you would move around the track on the outside of the board. But you have to pay 4 meat to be able to do that. Now, and so you have to have those resources to be able to pay. There you go. Turkey legs. So when you pay those, then you're going to be able to take the action of, like, you're going to be going to sea and you're going to be trying to defeat. And you can see there are 4 cards that have been set up in the middle, different like things at sea. They range from like big giant just attacking a cargo ship, the easiest one to the left, and all the way over, if you look 2 spaces, that you're attacking a spawn of Jordan, like spawn of the Great Serpent, basically. So it's like a huge battle. All of those little marks in the top, the top row, like, are, if you have dice that match those numbers, match those things that you have on your board, you're able to turn those in, and you can get the reward for doing so. In this case, you would get a glory horn. It isn't a glory horn. I forget what the exact terminology is for it, but you get one of those horns. It's like a favor token. There, I finally remembered it. But also a massive 19 points for doing so. But you need all 5 of those dice. As opposed to the cargo ship, you would get 2 meat and a small pittance of glory points when compared to, like, defeating a giant sea serpent. If you don't have the right dice to do so, each one of those cards you can see has a shield with a number on it. That is the combat value of this. There is some dice rolling. There is some combat glory. Yes, thank you. It isn't just a straight euro. I'm a big fan of dice. So some of the dice that you roll will have hammers on them, and I'm pretty sure, like, you can. I can see one on the blue that's right there. Or yeah, there you go. So a hammer allows you, and there's some black dice. If Lincoln can grab some of those black dice really quickly. And there we go. So there's some black dice. So for each hammer die that you are able to turn in, you can roll 1 of those dice. Those dice will either have 0, 1, or 2 axes on them. If the number of axes you get when you roll the dice equal or exceed the shield value, or basically the combat value of that thing, you will defeat it, and then you'll be able to take that card once again, put that in your glory stack that will be worth points, towards the end of the game as well. And but the big thing here is that you can notice that there are 4 spots there where you're placing it. Each one of those spots, after the fact, the person to your left, you can say to the person to your left, do you want to take this action after I've taken that action?
Well, yes, I do. I'd love to fight it soon.
Yeah, exactly. So here's my 4 drumsticks.
I have 4 chicken wings right here. Yeah.
Exactly. So then you roll, and each person gets to take that action. So one of the things I love about the fact that you have a follow action is that there's a lot of games, and that I always. I go to conventions and I see people sitting at a table, playing a game they're all really enjoying, and I'm sure they're enjoying the game a great deal, but one person's making up their mind, and the rest of them are staring at their phone, or they're talking. I mean, which is your conversations or whatever, but nobody's focusing on the game. Whereas, you've taken that action. I really want to go, but it's like, can I get 4 meat to be able to do this? And so, like, the fact that there really isn't any downtime, which is something that a lot of people stress, and which I stress, is something that in a game that lasts 90 minutes, like, keeping the downtime to a minimum is always a good idea.
And we won't have enough time. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, we won't have enough time to go through all places, but I think the twist that I also really liked is that if the area ties into one of those 4 sections on the bottom of your ship, whether or not you do the action and pay the cost to do the action, whether or not it's your turn, you could still get all those little benefits by putting all those Reavers underneath those sections. So you could even just kind of get that backwash saying, yeah, maybe I'm not going to battle at sea, but I have cards, Reavers, that I stacked up under battle at sea. So cool, I get stuff.
Yeah, and being having the presence of mind of noticing what the other people are going to be cashing in on what you do is going to
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to go there.
I don't want to hand you a bunch of stuff. Yeah, exactly. So it's something to consider and something to think about on each of your turns. That's something that I really enjoy. I guess the biggest thing about the game is that we said it's like the spiritual successor to Champions of Midgard, which is one of our best-selling games of Grey Fox Games. And yes, it is the same art, it's the same theme, it's Vikings, but it is its own entity. We didn't just take Champions of Midgard and say, hey, what's some way we can just force another version of this, some standalone sequel, if you will. This is its own game, and it's its own. The gameplay between those two is strikingly different, and something that we're very proud of as well.
So I do want to mention that pattern of somebody goes there, it triggers sort of the ship benefits, and then other people decide if they go there is true for all the different sections of the board. Yes.
Yes, that is correct, and so what happens then is that like I said, some of the places don't have a cost to them, but so you're like, oh, okay, I can take this action, but I don't have to pay for turkey legs to be able to do it because there's no cost to do it. But say the Reavers section up in the top left, taking new Reavers, you get to pick. You'll notice that there's two cards there. There's one that's you get both of the cards when you go to that spot. But the first person that chooses to go there gets those two the horn tokens. Favor. Thank you. The favor tokens. The first person to go there gets the favor. So yes, there's still a reason to go there, but you can also gamble on the fact that okay, this turn I'm going last this turn. Hopefully somebody takes those. I really need more Reavers. I need more dice. I need somebody. So you're hoping somebody takes the Reavers action before it's your turn. So yes, I will follow you. Definitely, I will follow you. I am grabbing these because I desperately needed dice this turn. So there's some timing wise things that you have to keep in mind as well. And you can also if you're like second or third, it's I know you want dice. I'm not taking Reavers. I'm going to make you do that on your turn. I'm going to do something else. So
get Reavers on your own time.
yeah, get your Reavers on your own time. But no, so there's a lot of that going on, and then of course it's one of those things. It does have a bit of a point salad escalation as far as the point totals go. There's lots of different ways to score points. Like I said, you can go to sea and you can war against sea serpents and what have you, and collect points that way. A really good way to collect points is to go crashing settlements, which are up on the top right. There's also in the bottom right, there are those the classic different things that you can collect that will get you bonus points at the end of the game. So if I've collected 4 of this type of card, the first card's worth 3, the next 2 of the cards are worth 7, 3 of the cards are worth 12. So it's an escalation type of thing. So you don't have to just do a warring at sea or a raiding settlements type of situation. There's a balance in to and fro and different paths to victory, which is something also that I really enjoy in games. I don't want to just have one strategy and that's the only one that's worth doing. So
Lance, I do want to make sure we mention too, what's going to trigger the end of this game.
Oh well, the end of the game it's a round game. It's so if you notice up in the top of the very center, there is a circular track where there are 6 rounds to the game, and so there is an economy of actions going on as well. So it is one of those things where it's not an engine builder per se, but you definitely are going to be building up how you're going to be gaining your points throughout the game, cashing in when you can. But once you get to those last couple of turns, you are definitely going to be okay, here's the mad rush. How am I going to, I need this card, I need that card, I need to raid that settlement, I need to, gather more of these fort tokens because I have a prophecy card, which are in the bottom left. We didn't really touch on those, but the bottom left, they're prophecy cards that will get you bonus points at the end of the game. If you have more of this or more of that, they're going to get you bonus points. And then of course, total up all the points, and whoever did the best job of collecting glory will be the winner of Reavers of Midgard.
How long? Let's do how many players and how long?
So it handles 2, 3, or 4. It handles all those very well. My daughter and I played this one ever since the quarantine. This is something that's like usually set up on the board game pillow. So my daughter and I will play a 2-player. It plays very well. As I said, you get two of the boats in a 2-player game. So like you do get 2 separate actions. But if it handles 4 players, I think 4 players is where it really shines. I mean, just because you have to contend, and that's not because it works better with 4 players. I just like working with 4 different minds, at the table. Like everybody kind of like, jockeying for position and trying to figure out, trying to get that card before somebody else does. You're looking at first gameplay, 90-minute game, just to learn how the game clunks together and but after everybody knows how to play the game, you're looking at like 60, 70 minutes, just to get through a game. It doesn't overlast its welcome on the table, if you will.
which is something an impressively short time for its weightiness, its stinkiness.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the point salad aspect of the points at the end of the game, you are going to take a little bit of time to tabulate everybody's score, but I think that's like the fun part. Like, I always love the like, I just got done playing and I collected all of this stuff. Let's see how well I did, collecting all that stuff, and let's see how it measures up to everybody else, and there's that. I'm a big fan of reveal moments in games, whether it's turning a card over to see it or like watching a dice scatter about and see what the result is. But a great reveal moment is also when everybody goes, "Oh, I scored 73 points," or "I gained an extra 45 points here," things like that. I definitely like those. It adds to the tension and adds to once again, everybody at the table focusing on the game, focusing on each other, which is, ostensibly the reason why you're playing a game to begin with.
We do have a question if there is a solo option or any plans to possibly develop one for this game, or is that interaction of being able to piggyback on things really requires humans?
Last time I checked, I think somebody was working on or was like a fan made solo thing. But I personally, I do not believe. No, there is not a variant, an official variant from us. Now, that doesn't mean to say that with an expansion that may or may not be in the works, there isn't something that we're looking at doing in the future. But just as of right now, no. That is that. And I would like to actually, if I could, can I mention something that's completely unrelated to this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I actually have a little list of things that you might want to talk about.
Okay, well, I do want to mention before, so the very next, the next Kickstarter that Gray Fox Games is launching is for a card drafting engine building game of Wizards, which is a game called Arcana Rising. And if you go to grayfoxgames.com /Arcana Rising, you can sign up and with your email, and we will let you know, keep you up to date as far as with the newsletter and also with the launch date. We're looking at launching that in about 2.5 months. There's some fantastic artwork for it. It is one of the games that I've been super excited for because I'm a big fan of drafting cards. I'm a big fan of, obviously, engine building games are kind of in vogue right now with a lot of different fantastic designs coming out. But I've always liked seeing an engine, create and spit out something at the very end. And it's kind of always Scott Nicholson once told me, I really enjoy games where I'm building something, where I'm creating something. And so at the very end of the game, I can see that thing that I made. And this is a game where, yes, as a wizard, you're coming up with all these different studies and all these different actions that these cards can do, and you can string things together perfectly. And it's a very satisfying feel to it. So that's a big thing that I wanted to mention. And stay tuned. If you haven't signed up for the Gray Fox Games newsletter, we will definitely be giving out more and more information about that as well. But what did you have for me? And I will try to answer those as best as I can.
Well, if you wanted to talk any details about After the Empire or Zoned Out.
Well, Zoned Out is a fantastic city building game where you're going to be taking a small little tiny town and building it into a metropolis where people are going to be laying these square tiles down, basically ostensibly square cards that they're going to create a town as you match up different zones, like whether they're residential or commercial or what have you. Kind of like, I'm not going to say it isn't Sim City or anything like that. I mean, whenever you mention zones, I always think of playing Sim City. But and then as you put those things together, you are able to, if you are kind of pushing your luck in a lot of ways, because you want to kind of build the zone as big as you can before you lay claim to it. But the longer you build a zone, the more chance somebody else is going to step in and like ruin it for you by placing one of their own city zones over and like co-opting part of it and taking away a large thing. So there's definitely an aspect of that game where it looks cool when you're playing it because of the fact that you have all these colored crystals and that build up and grow the city as you play. So once again, going back to that, you're seeing something being made on the table. It's just kind of a satisfying feel to it. But it's a lighter game. It definitely is something that, once again, I played with my family and we've enjoyed it. I'm playing a lot of games with my family lately.
Aren't we all?
It's like there's something else going on, like, I don't know. After the Empire is a fantastic game about just building up a castle and hopefully defending it against the invaders that are coming. And all of you are in your small little like feudal lord that you're reporting to an earl or a baron. I can't remember the actual terminology we used. But that is a game that we did very well on Kickstarter, and it is in the process of being manufactured right now in China. And we'll be delivering it to backers here once we can get that game on a boat and bring it over. So, if you are a backer of that, you definitely can go and check on the updates on the Kickstarter page. But it is something that I think once people see that on a table, once they see the actual, like, because it is like pieces of castle that you're going to be building up on your board, it's got a great presence. And last thing, I know I'm running out of time here, but the last thing I want to mention is that we just recently wrapped up a Kickstarter for a game called For Science. For Science is a game that's part dexterity building, but also part like variable player powers, and also it's a game about defeating viruses and coming up with a universal cure for a global pandemic, which seemed. And the game was in development like 3 years ago. It just happened. It happened perfectly. And during the Kickstarter, we actually had a thing for every copy of the game sold. We donated money to a direct relief charity, which is like a charity that deals. Yeah, so it deals directly with helping with first responders and COVID response. So, we wanted to make sure that people understood we weren't making light of the global virus, and we wanted to make sure that people understood that we were taking it very seriously. Because obviously this is a very serious situation we're in. I mean, as everybody carries around their little piece of hand sanitizer, and I mean, it's like it's a very real world thing. But the game itself is a little bit of a lighthearted take, because there is some like tongue-in-cheek jokes as far as like, because the people aren't the actual researchers. They're like the people at the lab that are like the janitor or like the grounds crew or a marketing director. They aren't actually like the specific like lab people that you'd expect to be working on it, but by happenstance they happen to be like our only hope. And that game, the pledge manager or over at GameFound, if you missed out on that Kickstarter, we are opening up for late pledges. We'll be opening that up later this week. We just sent out the test like the test balloon that you have to send out to like 50 or so backers, just to make sure that everything is working right in the pledge manager. But if you missed out on For Science, we will be opening it up to anybody who wants to lay pledge on that on Friday of this week. So
all right, well,
there Lance, you go. And I think that's my time.
That's your time. So, Lance, thank you again for letting us share some details, obviously mostly on Reavers of Midgard, but also For Science, After the Empire, Arcana Rising, Zoned Out. So all the things that you have coming up from Gray Fox Games. And I hope you stay well, and can't wait to get my hands on Reavers.
Yes. Thank you so much for the time, Beth. It was wonderful to see you. Lincoln, thank you for letting me see your disembodied hands. I greatly appreciate that, my friend.
Good to have you. You filled the time well.
All right. You take care of yourself. You take care of yourself, Beth. Take care of yourself, Lincoln. And yeah, everybody who's watching, stay healthy. Take care.